Hi, this is Ben Ivey, the fulfillment artist, and in this video I wanted to teach you what is self-love exactly. Now, self-love is something that's thrown around quite a lot in life. Like, oh, you need more self-love. Oh, I just feel like you're not loving yourself too much. Or on the other hand, you feel people are like, oh, you're arrogant, you love yourself too much. You're totally in love with yourself. Isn't it funny? Like, some people are saying, oh, you need to love yourself more. Some people are saying you love yourself too much. Like, where do you draw the line? Like, do you have to have like a balance of, oh, I have to love myself a little bit, but hate myself too? What? So, well, when I was diving into self-love, I was thinking, okay, well, the best way to dive into self-love is to say, okay, well, what is self-love not, right? It's not being negative with yourself, being annoyed, being aggravated, hating, blaming, being aggravated, tense, angry, sort of all these horrible emotions we don't want to feel, and not feeling good enough. That there's no self-love there, okay? And it's funny actually, because that's all about being human, right? It's like our survival instinct to tell us all these things, to help us survive, to keep us in our comfort zone. You know what I mean? So in essence, if self-love is not doing all these things and not surviving, then maybe we need to look at self-love in a different way, because no matter how old we are, we always come up with the same patterns. We're all human. It's hilarious. I went to a networking event a few months ago, and I was chatting to an older guy. He was about 80, 90. And he was saying, oh, I'm really pleased. I've been doing a lot of work recently, and my mind's telling me you're not good enough. You can't do this, you can't do that. And I'm like, what? This guy's 90, and he still has those thoughts. So the same thoughts like a 5-year-old, right? And it's hilarious. We all just have this human mind. You know what I mean? And where is this self-love come into it? So is self-love moving us away from what it is to be human? Like, is it moving us away from the survival instinct to thriving? So how is it that we can self-love when we're programmed to do the opposite? So how can you self-love? So there's a couple of different things, right? So the first one is to love your body. So what do I mean by this, right? So humans are created differently, right? We are all completely different, right? There are no two the same. We are all very unique. But what happens is often when our uniqueness doesn't match other people, we feel like we need to change ourselves because we want to fit in, right? So we may have a mole on our face, or a bump on our back, or slightly shorter arms, or a slightly hairier chest, or no hair on their chest, like whatever it is, okay? And we'll feel, oh, I feel like I need to change that. But that's not self-love. If instead you say, well, I love myself just the way I am, right? That's perfect. And I think that when we look into self-love, it's accepting the way we are and not looking to change anything, right? And looking after ourselves. I'm not saying, oh, I'm accepting just the way I am when you're like 500 pounds and your body's breaking down. Okay, I think there's a certain amount of respect and self-love for your body, right? Because if you imagine the appearance on what the outside of your body looks like, you can't really control, but how much weight you gain and things like that, there's a science to that, and that you can take responsibility for. Does that make sense? Like, if you are incredibly fat, there's a reason that you are like that. If there's a mole on your face, right, he's not going to say, I'll cut that off too, right? That's you actually doing something physically to yourself instead of looking into, okay, well, I can actually eat healthier. I can look after my body. Because if you look after your body and you're going to feel good inside, then you're going to look good outside as well. So maybe this self-love can look into an element of loving our bodies more and the external vessel that we're in the world, going about and doing all these things. Next is love your mind. So even though, like I said, this mind of survival will say different things to you, like you're not good enough, I'm not sure if I can do that, da-da-da. Instead, if you can love and accept it just the way it is, and not blame it and not get aggravated and say, why do I always think this way? What a terrible question. I mean, I've spoken about quality questions before. Why am I always this way? What good answer could possibly come out of that shitty question? Like, what possible good answer, right? No idea. Instead, you say, no, I just accept that that's my mind. I love it. It doesn't mean I have to do it. I'm just observing it, right? And you can take that action step back and accept it. And then when you make mistakes, okay, don't constantly focus on the mistakes. Like, oh, why did I do that? Why did I do that? And people constantly think about the same things that they did over and over again, where they've made all these mistakes, and they just replay the same scenario over and over in their head. But let me give you an example. If you saw someone, okay, and they tripped over and scraped their knee, right, and they ran back, and they ran again, and they tripped over and scraped their knee, and they knew what they were doing, they just kept on doing it, you would think this guy was a psycho. Why does he keep doing that? This is literally what you're doing with your mind when you're replaying the same thing over and over and over. Because your mind can't tell the difference between imagination and what is real. So if you're replaying these mistakes and these bad things and these scenarios in your head, that's constantly going to be going on. Instead of letting things go, moving on and learning from them, and actually self-loving yourself, right? So maybe self-love is being able to detach from your mind and accept the way you're thinking and allow you to focus on things that you really want. Next, love your environment. So why is this self-love? Because if you're going to look after yourself, it's important to be really aware of the environment that you spend time with. And in the moment we focused on the sort of mind and the body, and then you've got the heart brain, gut brain, there's things like that. But when we're focusing on the environment, that has a big effect on you as a person. So self-love yourself enough to spend time with people that make you feel good, not people that bring you down. There's self-love there, because if we don't like spending time thinking negatively towards ourselves, then why is it okay to spend time negatively with people that negatively influence us, and like a sponge sapping our energy? And I mean like vampire, just digging in, just taking all the energy away from you. Like instead, how can you spend time with people that really uplift you? Perhaps self-love is being able to be around people that positively encourage you to pursue your dreams and create whatever it is that you truly want in life. Next is love being human. So why do I say this? Because we've done with the environment, we've done the mind, we've done the body, human, just the entire human experience, being a human being. Now most people go out their day and they want to do, right? They're human doings. Instead, you need to be a human being. Actually be a certain way. Give yourself time to meditate. Give yourself time just to be, walk in nature, ground yourself. Look up in the skies and realize how small and tiny and insignificant you really are compared to the whole scheme of things, and how huge this planet is. Because if you can really just start being instead of doing, you're going to allow yourself that self-love just to be. And instead of your identity being tied into everything that you do in life, your identity will be tied to who you are as a person each day, who you are being. And that's a beautiful shift to make, and there's a lot of self-love there. Because you're self-loving yourself internally and having that control of being a certain way. Like, who am I going to be today as opposed to what am I going to do? I think that's a beautiful shift. And I think, throughout this exploration of what is self-love, I think there's lots of different ways to define it. And for yourself, think, out of everything that I've listened to here, what is self-love for me? And how could I perhaps show more self-love to have a more fulfilled and happier life? Because life is too short to keep us down and keep depressed in a certain way, and to find things so difficult all the time. So how could you bring a bit more self-love into your life? With that, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope that this has shedded some light on the self-love situation. And thank you for watching the video, and I'll speak to you very soon.